Okay. Can you folks hear me in the back? Okay. Really? Okay. Let me see where I'm going to do this. Well, this is what, our fourth gathering? Okay, so probably most people in the room know that in 2013, we underwent a theory of change process that helped us realize we needed to be kinder and gentler to our children. And that's what we did. We adopted a social emotional learning approach. What prompted us to do that was a reading. Eric Jensen's Teaching with Poverty in Mind really taught us that in spite of all the stuff that our kids come to school with, trauma from poverty, stress, anxiety, everything, that we could make a difference so that we could help their brains to change by the way we responded, right? That's what the science tells us. And so we got very excited about that. We purchased a lot of programs. We adopted responsive classroom and restorative practices. We started doing circles. It all went so well. Our suspension rate in that first year went down by 40%, and we were super excited about that. Because we felt badly sending kids out on this no excuses model, just to go home every time they made a mistake, just go home, just go. And so in 2016, we decided that even though we were making incredible gains on the social emotional learning piece, we were actually trying to teach these core values, perseverance, grit, self-efficacy, on top of trauma. We were trying to get children to understand that they could control their future, but they were stressed out from having witnessed domestic violence, or having not slept well last night, or being dirty. So the SEL programs approach that we had taken proved to us not to be enough. And so what we did was we decided that we were going to go progressive with emotionally responsive practice. And we did that largely after reading Leslie Koplow's book called Creating Schools That Heal. So what that meant for us was that we were really going to change the way we did business again at New Beginnings Family Academy. Change fatigue was a big issue for us. I'm the 8th leader at New Beginnings Family Academy in its 15 years. So imagine the team was pretty change fatigued over the years. But we knew that this was the right thing to do. So we are now a progressive school with emotionally responsive practice. A progressive school is one that is incredibly child-centered, very, what's the word I'm looking for? No, experience-based, experiential, hands-on, active learning, engaging. And ERP is very involved in the mental health strategies and that sort of thing that help children deal. So in order for us to get there, we had to do some pretty radical things, and some of them were reduced class sizes. That wasn't too radical. We went from 23 to 20. We increased our instructional staff. We added enough teachers and instructional assistants in the building to have 2 adults per room. We shortened our school day for children. That was radical for our community. We, had subscribed to the 9 and 10 hour school day model prior to this, and now our children are in from 7:50 to 1:50 every day, 6 hours, that's it. The research shows that that is what's developmentally appropriate for children, and so that's what we went for. Of course, that may be developmentally appropriate for children, but it was incredibly inconvenient for families, and so we, had to put an after-school program back in place. but we certainly did shorten the school day for children. We revised our dress policy. We used to be a uniform school, and now as a progressive school, we recognize that children need creative self-expression, even in what they wear to school each day. The goal, of course, is to just make them comfortable in their own skin. And so if coming to school in a uniform makes you comfortable in your own skin, come to school in a uniform. If coming to school out of uniform makes you comfortable in your own skin, do that. We don't have a problem with the way you dress at New Beginnings Family Academy. Whatever your parent finds appropriate for you to wear to school works for us, as long as you are ready to learn. And in order to do that, we increased our professional development budget exponentially. We engaged in lots of training for our teachers and staff, not just the teachers, but soup to nuts. Everybody in the building had to learn how to be emotionally responsive to children, including our board members. They went through a week-long training so that we could all understand what it means to recognize a problem in a child who walks in the door that morning and be comfortable enough and vulnerable enough to address that child, and inviting enough to let that child address his or her issues so that they can then learn. That's the key here. Social emotional learning is incredible. Emotional intelligence matters. But when the children are traumatized, sometimes you can't even get to that level. You've got to deal with whatever their anxieties are, whatever their stressors are, and then enable them to learn. And that's where we are at New Beginnings now. So let me tell you what it looks like at our school. This time last year, we probably, or maybe 2 years ago, because last year we were a little better, but we probably would have suspended and repeat suspended over a dozen kids by now. We've had 0 suspensions this year. 0 suspensions, and let me tell you why. Because what we discovered was that we were part of the problem. You know, we had this very strict uniform policy, and if the kid's shirt was untucked, well, then we had to fight them to get them to tuck it in. And if children want to look a certain way, they're going to be defiant. And defiant children get in trouble when that's the rule. And so that sort of thing just snowballed for us. Now children come to school and they're ready to learn. They're ready to be happy. They're ready to enjoy their time. What we found last year was that we had children who came to us balled up in knots, we called it. Very angry, very defiant, very nonverbal, didn't have the words to use. And so they would end up in our Tier 3 intervention program, which we called the McCoy Room. We served those children so well in the McCoy Room. It was a 6-week it is a 6-week program. They'd come in and we would meet them at their place of need. They would get their academics there. They'd get their social emotional learning in heavy doses. The teachers would work together collaboratively. And we would work to get them in McCoy, out of McCoy, and back into their normal classroom. And that's how we dealt with Tier 3 problems last year. We had about 18 all year, and we kept 6 kids in that program all year long. This year, we've had 0 children referred to McCoy. 0 children referred to McCoy, because we are addressing their triggers immediately. We are inviting them to talk about the issues. We are stopping instruction to pull them out for story gathering. We are peeling back the layers. We're using bears as a reflective technique so that children don't have to tell their story necessarily, but they can tell it from the perspective of the bear. We're doing restorative circles all the time, right in the middle of class. And stopping instruction, again, this is radical stuff in the age of standards and testing, but we stop instruction and we deal with the issues to make certain that the child is able to learn, okay? So that's some of the differences we've seen in children, and in terms of teachers, we've also seen an incredible shift. We've seen teachers who, one teacher in particular, smart woman, love her to death, really good, strong content knowledge, but she was incredibly negative because she wasn't happy. She felt unsupported. And when teachers don't feel supported, the teachers can be negative. This year, because she is getting so much attention with the level of professional development that we're offering, her and her colleagues, she's become a real positive teacher leader. She even sent us an email the other day that said, dear lead team, or whatever she called us, thank you so much. We see the difference this year over last year. So we're seeing it not just for our kids, but we're seeing it for our teachers as well. The challenge, of course, is that when you move to progressive education, which is very student-centered and project-based, and we take a lot of field trips, and we're out of the building a lot, and you live in a world that is standards-based and test-driven, it presents a challenge. There are still high levels of anxiety around reconciling that. And it's hard also because in a progressive school, you really attempt to integrate all of your curriculum. Like, you shouldn't teach math and then reading and then science and then social studies, which is what we do as educators. And what we're trained to do, and at New Beginnings Family Academy, we're now trying very hard to integrate all of our content areas. And that's proven to be a bit of a challenge for our teachers, just because their comfort level is not there yet. They're getting an incredible amount of training around it. We're working with Bank Street College of Education out of New York, and they come in, they're very progressive. They come in and they work with us 3 times a week. And the administrators who have also been trained and continue to go out for training do frequent walks and observations in the school. So we're trying our best to make our teachers as comfortable as possible, because we know that happy teachers equal happy students, and happy students equal high achieving learners. Thank you.